Today, we're going to be discussing men. I know, but it's going to make it better because guess what? We're going to be talking about women as well. Thank God. What I'm specifically going to be diving into today is what it is like to interact with men who approach you when it's unwarranted. It's not necessary. It's not something you want to be happening. And I want to talk about the ways in which we, as women, me specifically, respond to these unwanted advances by men. As I'm sure everyone is very aware of, this happens every single day for women. It's not a rare occurrence, and I'm beginning to question why I respond the way that I do and what will happen if I change up that little vulnerability I have, and hopefully it'll emerge something new. What does it actually mean to be nice as a woman? Is it something implied given my gender identity? Is it meaning that I'm supposed to be polite, agreeable, satisfactory to the situation at hand? It's not a rare occurrence for anyone, as I've said, specifically for women, to be approached by a stranger. A strange man who has already planned his intentions for his conversation with you. He's already going into this interaction by coming up to you. You're just sitting there receiving information from the speaker. He just came up to you. As much as it pains me to say, I would just like to preface this video. I don't want to get any hate comments, okay? I do appreciate some levels of male attention. I know. I'm not off-put by every single man that dares to speak to me, okay? I'm not shunning every single person just because they say hello. But I am uncomfortable with every man who speaks to me as if I am a robot that they are learning how to control. It just makes no sense to me. And so you expect me to respond in a certain way when you're treating me like something you already know how I'm going to respond. You can't. To give examples, I mean, I have been working in the service industry for almost 7 years now. I've accumulated a range of interactions in which men make unwanted advances on me, for example, at work. But it doesn't stop while I'm on the clock. Oh no. I get approached when I am alone, when I am at the grocery store, when I'm walking down the sidewalk, when I am with a group of friends, and then they go to the bathroom, leaving me alone, or when they are with me, when I am with my mother, when I am with my younger sister, when I am with my older sister, when I am with my father, when I am with my brother, when I am with my boyfriends. Another reason that a lot of women feel like they have to respond in a certain way when men approach them, let's say they come up and they say, "Hey, how's it going? You look so good today." And you just have to be like, "Okay, thanks. I'm gonna go now." And they are like, "Well, are you single?" You have to say, "Oh my god, no, I so have a boyfriend." We all know you don't have a boyfriend, girl. You don't have a boyfriend, but like, you just have to be okay with this. Like, you just have to lie and make it so this man thinks that he's persuading you and that you so would want to date him. But if that stinking other man that owns you and controls you didn't exist, then you would so go with him. It's so silly that women are always like, well, we respond nicely because we're scared that men who advance on us and don't receive politeness in return will do something really silly, like, I don't know, kill us? Just an interesting dynamic. I have spent so many of these inappropriate interactions holding back my rage, hoping to dissolve the conversation with smiles and mind-numbing small talk so that both of us can, walk away unharmed. At least the man's ego will walk away unharmed, while my ego has been stomped all over, okay? My ego is tarnished because I just let this man think that he had this weird power over me in this rhetorical situation. It's never that I am at a loss for words in these situations. I always come up with something to say, but I always leave them wishing I had a different response. One that didn't make me feel dumbfounded by my lack of autonomy. I wish I could tell these men to get away from me without having all these other things emerge. I'm just gonna try and figure out how all these things came together. Why do people think that they have the right to come up to me and expect a certain response? Or is giving a certain response a part of being a nice human being? In this video, I will be exploring how my vulnerability can affect change within another person, and how my disruption of the formalities that I usually speak with will emerge a new kind of persuasion within me and the man who attempts to indulge me in his presence. All right, it's day 2. Let's get started with a story time. And that's how we're going to be working through all of our different theories. I would also like to say that I will be using a idea explained to me by Asia Martinez through her paper called A Plea for Critical Race Theory Counter Story. I will be using the narrative of a counter story versus a stock story. For example, I will in fact be sharing a review by the other person in this story who would be taken as the privileged white man, and me as the woman. His story, his reviews, will be the form of a stock story. As described by Asia Martinez, she said that counter story as a kind of counter reality created and experienced by outgroups who are subordinate to those atop the racial and gendered hierarchy, while those in power offer the in-group, who then crafts stock stories to establish a shared sense of identity, reality, and naturalization for their superior position. These stock stories, also described by Asia Martinez, choose from available facts who, quote, present a picture of the world that best fits and supports their position relative to power. So they are choosing things that support their narrative because they fit the position in which they are viewing them from. For example, like him talking about how inappropriate my outfit was supports his narrative that I'm an unreliable woman that can't be trusted because she shows off her body. For my side of the story, as Martinez describes, a counter story is then presented to develop a marginalized viewpoint and to critique the viewpoint put forth by the stock story while offering alternative possibilities for the audience to consider. So, my perspective of this story is obviously going to come across very vividly. However, it's kind of as a form for you to contradict the stuff that he's saying in his review, the stuff that he is saying I did, by showing you what my reasons were. Hope you can take that into account when I am telling you the story time, aka my counter story to this man's Google review stock story. So let's begin on the ripe old day of last Saturday. For context, I work at a bar. I am a bartender, a barista, a server, a cook. We kind of just do everything there. And one of the things I have to do as a bartender is make sure that the restaurant is safe. No one's acting unruly. I have to be the one to kind of check the vibe, a vibe checker. And at this restaurant I work at, we do have DoorDash. Okay, I love it. There has been this DoorDasher that has come in many a times to pick up orders, and nothing wrong with that, obviously, nothing wrong. However, just a note, he is in his 40s. Keep in mind, I'm 21. My other coworkers are 26 and 23. There have been multiple occasions where he has come in and he has said the exact same thing to all of us. I'm going to give a little demonstration. Hey, ladies. Hi. Are you picking up? If you're single, I'm not. Are you picking up an order? Dang it, you're not single. I want to take you out. So are you picking up an order? You're so pretty. Okay. You get the point. He has asked every single one of us out. Same exact joke. And on this last Saturday, he comes in. It's busy. Okay, to give you the landscape, there are people sitting at the bar. I'm behind the bar. I am making alcoholic drinks. I am making coffee drinks. I am taking orders. Okay, so there's a lot. It's really busy. We're understaffed this day. This man comes in and he's picking up a DoorDash order. No worries. I say, it's almost ready. Give me a few minutes. It's almost ready. And so he's standing right next to me. Here's an example. I had like a bunch of other drinks to make before the DoorDash one. And I called out these other drinks and he essentially mocked me. I don't know, in a girly ass voice because he thought it was funny. I don't know. I ignore him. I'm like, this guy's weird. This isn't new information. And then I call out someone else's drink and he does it again. I'm like, okay, all right. I kind of ignore it. I notice that he starts doing it to the girl sitting at the bar. The poor patrons of my restaurant. Just trying to have a little girly mimosa. A mimosa. By doing it to them, I mean going up and just mocking them. Let's say, for example, this is not what happened. Oh my god, yeah, and then she pants. Oh, did she pants? Like that. It's just weird. I turned around. I'm working so hard on my drinks. I turn around and I say, you're being inappropriate. You're being inappropriate. Please stop doing that while I finish your order. And I swear to God, it was as if Satan came out of the depths of hell in that moment for this man. I turned back around, tried to ignore him. I said what I had to say. So I go back to what I was doing. And then he says, you're weird. And then to the guy, sorry, there was also a guy sitting in the bar. He said, isn't she weird? And I turned around and I said, you're being weird. I like to say that you're being weird. He essentially yelled at me and said, I'm not ain't worth it. Y'all, I'm never coming back here. Did not take his bagel and coffee. I was pretty much done making. I was waiting to get the lid on it. And he just walks away and leaves. Then the girls sitting at the bar tipped me $100 on a $40 bill. On the bill, they wrote, sorry, this part gets confusing, but they just wrote, sorry for the jerks today, sad face. We talked to them and they were like, thanks for getting that guy out. Like, these women, so like appreciating the fact that that guy was gone. Like, he was making everyone uncomfortable. Here comes the next day. I open up Google reviews as I'm waiting to go into work. What girl doesn't like to see what the Google reviews are saying? I also just had a feeling. I had a gut feeling that this was going to happen. And there's 2 reviews written by this man, the DoorDasher, and also theory, not fact. We think that the other review was also written by him. Long story short, in the review, he claims that I embarrassed him and I was dressed extremely inappropriately. Don't you dare ask what I was wearing. Okay? And I'm not even going to tell you because I know what that means. And no, it's not going to happen. But he said what she was wearing was extremely inappropriate. And if she wants to look gay, we're in Bellingham. I don't really know why that's not allowed for this man, but now I'm in trouble at work and I have to now explain myself in front of my boss because there's these negative reviews, even though all I was doing was making sure that everyone was safe and comfortable and I wasn't letting a man disrespect me or the other customers he was interacting with. So now let's really dive into what the really happened. I just told you a story time, but we need to work through each singular step of this to really, really get in there because it took me a minute to really understand what happened to this man, and I fear that you guys need to know too. So here we go. I would like to include ideas from David Reich's essay called Toward a Theory and Pedagogy of Rhetorical Vulnerability, where he describes interactions that he's had with hate groups and trolls. He had said that within being in the proximity of their protests, he was provoked, quote, into making a decision about how to respond to that address. Beyond that moment, even if I chose to ignore them, I could not avoid responding to them in one form or another. Continually, he states that the active refusal to be responsive is a response and so no longer simple indifference. And that relates to my story, as in when I chose to not respond the first time he mocked me, I was already interacting in a vulnerable situation with this man. I was already in a rhetorical situation as well with him because I was actively choosing to try and ignore him the first time, which then continued him to keep doing it until I recognized his behavior. And to circle back to another idea from Risha's rhetorical vulnerability paper, where they state that experiences of vulnerability can also prompt fear, defensiveness, avoidance, and disavowal. Where the ability to predict and control is valued, the inability to do so is perceived as a failing and thus to be avoided at all costs. Hence, we are often ill at ease with vulnerability because it is a form of exposure to that which we are unfamiliar or uncomfortable. End quote. And when I was trying to understand what could have possibly been going through this man's mind, when after I told him he was being inappropriate, he started to cuss me out, freak out, wave his arms about, and leave the store, I could see in his eyes. Nope, cut that last part out because I did not see in his eyes. You could tell that there was an immediate shift from before I had stated my opinion and then after. There was a moment where he was visibly, you could see his whole demeanor of his face when he thought it was funny to be mocking me changed from, excited, waiting to see what I would say next, to after, where I called him out on something he wasn't expecting me to call him out on, where it was utter confusion. He was scared. He started to look around and he was like, that was weird. That was weird, because it was weird for him. It's not normal for people to change the pattern that men have grown so accustomed to repeating. I mean, I can't imagine. Wait, no, I can't imagine. Because I experience this all the day when men, I never have a pattern because it is never the same in life. Every day I can expect things to happen, but things are always new because I never expect people to respond to me in a certain way. And I think that's the really interesting about this situation, is that, as Reese said, he looked scared, defensiveness, like, and then he prompted the defensiveness when he started cussing me out and saying, I'm not fucking doing this shit, and he left. When he avoided any of the problems, instead of telling me how he felt, really, like, oh, he thought I was dressed inappropriate, all the stuff he put in the review. Instead of telling me any of that to my face, he avoided it and left. And like, what men value also, as Reach stated, is the ability to predict and control, because that is highly valued for them. And once you break the pattern of their way of thinking, all of that prediction, all of that hoping and assuming that you would respond in a certain way that would appeal to them is gone. And so it puts them on like this defense mode where they have to absolutely start over analyzing every single thing that's wrong except for the things that they have done themselves.